You're listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more.
Wepa, what I mean, this is your boy Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders podcast. And today we have an amazing independent creator. Homie got a fire project out on Kickstarter right now. All right. He is a editor, screenwriter, comic writer, and let's talk, and a podcaster with a dope podcast. All right. And we'll get into all of this, his whole geek culture narrative and growing up and stuff. Let's get into the geekiness of the man himself, Mr. Michael J. Florio. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right, man. Thanks for that intro. That was awesome.
Thank you for coming on. Big shout out to our extended whole Ink family, man. Glad to have an Ink fan member up on right here that got a project, got something going on with Wild Oni. But we're going to get into that. But with my comic crew, I need to have me an origin story. Mike, this is your first time here. Tell us a bit about yourself, where you're originally from, and what was the first thing in fandom that you ever fell in love with?
Oh man, that's a long. I'll try to make it short though. I am an original OC. I was originally born in Orange County, San Clemente, California, and for whatever reason, my mother decided to move me to Mississippi, where I've spent Biloxi, Mississippi. I've actually lived all over, from Ocean Springs and D'Iberville all the way over to Bay St. Louis, which is about an hour outside of New Orleans. I've lived in Louisiana for a little while, but I lived in Vegas for a time when I was a kid, and then we came back. But I always came back to Mississippi for some reason, which isn't a bad thing because like creators like Stephen Butler and stuff live out here. So it's actually the comic community in Mississippi is actually quite big.
Really?
Yeah. So it is. It's really cool. In fact, the comic shop that I frequent, 3 Alarms Comics off Lemoyne Boulevard, run by Scott, is actually a sister store to the Stash with Mike Zapsik. It's Small World. So I was excited about that, and he frequently does events and stuff. It's really cool. Cool. But my career into writing actually started with my interest in video games. So fast forward or flashback to 2015, I was building trailers, like putting them together off lots. Really rough job. And I was like, I need to do something with my life. I was having a midlife crisis type of thing. Living a whole state away from my kids, and I was like, I'm gonna do something that I love to do, and so I decided to go make video games. So I called up a Full Sail rep, Full Sail University out of Orlando, Florida, Winter Park, Florida. Actually,
my daughter graduated from there.
Oh, really? Small world, man. There's a lot of Full Sail blood around the country. It's actually quite the prestigious school. It's niched in entertainment, whether it be like screenwriting, video games is the biggest one, but a lot of graphic designers and coders come out of there, video game designers who've worked on multiple projects, Borderlands, Fallout, and all that.
I mean, like, people don't even know. That's why they from NXT, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, NXT too. Yeah. They're in the entertainment industry.
They use the students to film, folks. That's, it's like really like right there. If you like the quality of that, keep in mind these are students learning on the job.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to go campus because I was living in Louisiana, so I did online.
Well, my daughter went during COVID years, so unfortunately, she probably got to go a week or two, and boom, and then the poor girl didn't get to enjoy it.
Yeah, man, they opened up, I think, a year and a half after. It's funny that you bring up wrestling though, because that was actually what I'm getting to with this first fandom thing. But So I graduated from Full Sail, but I didn't stick with gaming. So shortly after my grandmother died, I wanted to get into writing. So I felt like there was a lot of things that she could have said with the rest of her life that she needed a chance to. She died from cancer. It was like for 4th go around. So I was like, so after my coding instructor wouldn't teach me per se the way to understand it, because I had passed all the classes up till then. I was like, this is just a great opportunity to transition over. So I transitioned over to writing. I got my bachelor's, and then I jumped right into the master's degree program as COVID happened. I lost my job during COVID because I was in a department that hands-on, they couldn't have that. So I took all that energy and frustration, I put it in my master's degree program. I graduated with 3.8 GPA. And shortly after that, I got my first comic editing job with Limitless Comics. I did a book called Thirst, as a female vampiric type character in a dark type city. It was almost like writing or editing for like a female type Spawn / Blade character. It was a really cool character.
Okay.
Shortly after that, I had hooked up with Kevin and inked and stuff. But my original introduction to fandom was really pro wrestling. And I know that's far from comics, but if you look at where comics and wrestling have intersected over the last decade, you know, Tony Schiavone's Butts and Seats with Dirk Manning, and then Arn Anderson, Enforcer All My Life, documentary graphic novel that also was written by Dirk Manning. And I recently spoke to Todd Black, who wrote the Thunder Rosa comic. That was basically an origins of how she came up. And I witnessed that when I was a child. And before I even thought about, you know, going into anything, I wanted to be a pro wrestler. And so I went to a few shows down here in 2013 when I was around 19, 20 years old. And I got some information. I went to the SWA. It's called Southern War Action Zone or something. And I went to Hattiesburg and I did training, and they shut down the school a couple weeks before I was going to get my athletics license.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Bro.
And then my ex-wife hit me with that. It's either wrestling or family. And I was like, great. Thanks for pulling out my real origin stories. I grew up without a father for up until I was about 16. I always had stepdads, but I was always empty with that, like, who am I? Like Batman, who am I type crap. Yeah. And so I chose family. And so, oddly enough, I've gotten the opportunity to talk to, you know, pro wrestlers and stuff like that. So when I was talking to Todd Black about his, you know, opportunity to write Thunder Rosa, and he's got this idea for writing for AEW, and so I've been trying to help him get the horn out on that, because he needs writers for that project. But that's kind of where the origin stories came from. That's when I started getting into the industry, that first editing job, and then meeting Kevin. Kevin was a bridge to a lot of other creators. I've had, you know, jobs with creators like Sean and SHP, the editor on I believe I know one was Woodstock, the other one was it's actually right here, The Killing Machine.
Ooh, The Killing Machine. Oh, yep.
Yeah.
That's on me too. I mean, put that up again. Look at that book. Hold on. Boom. There we go. Look at that cover. Sick.
I really like where he went with this book. I think he's got like 2 or 3 more issues to do on that, but he jumped off that train to get on Eurotech, and I know he's been working on Eurotech and stuff. That was a fun book. Currently, right now, I'm editing Sweet Pea, The Diary of Sweet Pea by Aline. Yeah, Alter Ego. And he's working on the script for issue 3 right now. And so,
other than that, man, what? How much fun are you having being able to see, you know, the world building, you know, even before all of us do?
The world building is probably the fun part, because it's like it's not even just about like characters and seeing how people like put things together or adapt, or, you know, take a world and like transform it into like their own vision. It's getting to see the way they think about the world, you know, through their perspective. And it also gives you kind of like a humble perspective, because I see things a certain way, you see things a certain way, they see things a certain way. So as an editor, it's really humbling, because we get to see the way they see it, and we get to share our perspective with them. And whether or not they use that in their story, it's still an inspiring process, because we both get to teach each other different sides of the world, or different views of the world that maybe we hadn't considered before. I've learned a lot from every creator that I've edited for. Some I've been close knit with. I know me and Lim work very close on his script, and he asks me questions, and I send him answers back, and we'll have back and forths a few times. I've worked with editors who are like, look at this, I proofread it, and I'm like, great, thanks. Either way, you could still learn a lot from those types of not confrontations, but like trade-offs or back and forths, because you're still reading their work. If they wrote it, then, you know, that's how they think. I've always been the type of person to analyze and then kind of deliberate afterwards, to kind of like introspect, but like, how does that make me feel? What can I learn from this? How could this make me better? What didn't I know that I know now that actually makes me more informed? And it also, the way they write, the techniques they use, the mechanics of their writing overall teaches you how better to guide the next writer that you take on. And if you're a writer and an editor like me, it gives you a perspective to see your own writing in a different way. I've had that happen a few times, where either something in my life has either impacted my writing in a way that I would have done this totally differently had I not known that. But because I can do that, I think much more clearer and much more impactful in a way that I think better serves the reader, because they get to experience this for the first time and you get to grow it. So I describe it as a process of having a green thumb, right? You start off with a seed, you plant it, and then you water it, you nurture it, you take care of it until it, bears fruit or vegetables or whatever nutrients or sustenance that you need. The reader gets to enjoy that part. It's very liberating experience, to be completely honest, because as an editor, you can't go in there fully loaded with what you know and then tell them what they need to do with their story, because that's not how you become a great editor. Or even not even how you give advice to people who may need help in certain areas. And sometimes you get the gratification of seeing somewhere where a writer can improve, which is also equally liberating, because you get to teach them maybe a way that was easier.
Okay, wonderful. See, you killed my second question. You answered it.
Did I?
I love it. Love it. All right. So, what about getting now into your own creative spirit now? Because you're helping others so much, right? You're doing what you're doing with the editing, whatnot. Talk about now you applying all that. Having so much coming at you. How do you kind of clear your mind and your space to work on, the Florio verse, if you will?
The Florio verse. I like that. When I was sitting down thinking about that, because I have a character called Iron Jaguar that I published in several other comics publishers. One was Advent Comics with Tony Cottrell. I have a 4-page team up with him and his Titan Man character. And then in Champion Comics, and I think it was the Powerverse, I'm in a scene with that, with Vince White's Powerverse, and then Carlos Raphael's Champions Comics. I also have another character coming out with him, but I published him first, and that's actually the legacy character. And I have to kind of like dump, like the week that I balance is usually between, like, okay, you're a podcaster, so you know the pains of this. Like, you have to correspond with guests to get them on the show, and there's always just like at least 3 or 4 back and forths. You're like, what time works good for you? What time works best for me? This time works best for me.
That's why I love counting. Date and time, and we're locked.
Right. I am going to adopt that. I promise. But I spent a lot of time doing that, and then after that, check emails and all that. And once all my messages are clear, I'll go write my reviews for Geek Network if I have any. And then I'll go see if my emails are there. If there's anything there for my clients, I'll take care of that. This is probably around 2-3 o'clock. And then I'll go check my emails again, make sure there's correspondence for the podcast there. If I'm podcasting that day, I don't do anything before noon. I leave myself from like noon to like 3 to like decompress. This means I'll do whatever. I'll catch up on a TV show. I'll go read news. Yeah. And then I'll just take care of that guest. And when that podcast episode's over with, I'll go write my show notes. I'll schedule it, and I'll put my stuff in there the day after and make the graphic for it later. And then after that, I'll spend an hour or two writing, whether it's outlining, because I'm a plotter, I'm not a pantser. The difference is I look at all my assets for my story, and I put them in the pattern that I want them to be understood and read in, and then I go in and then I add all the details and stuff. Panzer's just.
You have a murder board in your creative room.
I do have a murder board in my creative room. It's on note cards. And I actually have 2 boards. I got stuff up here right now. I don't have a webcam to turn around. I could show you one day, but I'll put a picture up in a message chat later. But I do have kind of a murder board, because I break it down into note cards. And I learned that technique when I was learning screenwriting during my bachelor's and my master's. And I actually did that process again when I wrote the pilot script for Mozzie Productions this past year. So I'll get a
writing. Do you approach your comic book creation as a movie screenwriter type of format, or is there a difference in how you approach it too?
So, I mean, not really, Not really. At first, when I break down the whole comic script, I will go page by page and I'll throw a 2 or 3 sentence synopsis like, this is what I want to happen on this page. This is what I want to happen on this page. This page. This page. It never stays the same because
Right.
when you're outlining that way, you're just trying to get your pages down so you can set up your page turn mechanics, because every big dramatic scene has to have like, oh, what's next, to to hook the reader in. You don't want them to get bored after like page 6 because they didn't have nothing to turn to. It was just like, oh, more exposition. And in screenwriting, there's a completely different way to do that. Like, you could set it up that way in comics if you were outlining it, but there's just so much more detail because when it comes to screenwriting versus comics, dialogue is so much more important in screenwriting because you actually have you have more money than you do in comics, but everything comes down to production time when you're writing, a film or a television show, and so your dialogue has to be quick, clever, and just really fast, and it has to play off each other. That version of the script that you turn in will never stay the same because after a table read, they'll probably change it because you'll have
Mm.
the actors come in and they'll be like, I'm not really feeling this word. What if we said this? And then after the table read, they'll redo it again. And then the director might change it on set while they're doing the performance, because then now you have the set together. Now you have all the people in costume. So you've really captured what the script is trying to
Mhm.
say, but maybe it doesn't work while they're shooting. In
Mhm.
comics, you don't really have that many options to do that. You get the script and it gets approved by an editor. That editor takes it to layouts by the artist. The artist does the layouts. And if you don't change anything before they apply ink, that's it. You're done. You're either paying for new
Oh, what?
pages. Yeah, you're either paying for
I
new
didn't
page.
know that. So if the once inks are laid out, you're done. That's it. It's the
You
start of the
can't, no,
concept.
no, the only thing you can change is dialogue. You would have to
Okay.
pay that artist to do a completely different page.
Okay.
Unless they're contracted. So if they're contracted and they've agreed to do so many repages for this page, that's different. But if you're freelance, then most artists will just say, if you want to
Yeah.
make that whole change, just like almost the whole page, I need a brand new page. That's another 60 to 80 to $120, depending on the quality and the location of the artist.
Oof.
So I approach comics in the same way I do script, because a lot of the format is similar, right? Because you have your actions, which is basically the note to your artist on how to lay out the scene or the panel. And then you have your dialogue, which is the basic thing. But you also have your tags, so your captions, you have your character names. There's a lot of similarity there. A lot of people don't write comics like they do film, especially if they don't
Mhm.
have film background training or background in writing film. But for those who appreciate the long form script, which I think they call the DC style, not the Marvel style,
Yes.
they uh, they go full script. They include names and captions and notes to the editors. If they want something specific, they'll apply notes to the inkers or whatever. That is a huge debate in like the medium itself. And I hope one day it leads to like a comics union, like the way we have, WGA and SAG-AFTRA for actors and writers and comic scripts.
Well, Image started kind of right then. The Image creative try to form a union, if you will. And
Yeah,
hopefully, it's something that could expand across publishers to protect you writers as well, and artists from also from the
right.
horrors of the AI now that is doing. I mean, I'm not a doomsayer on AI. There's certain things that's great for
Yeah,
that can help creatives take some shortcuts, but when it comes to like writing up a whole story through AI,
yeah,
no. I taking someone's art, no. You know Thankfully, like I've seen Google Bard, for example, is
yeah,
an AI that doesn't allow you to put things like in the style of, won't allow you to copy.
yeah,
Although then the argument is it's still sourcing material that are made by others.
yeah. Yeah, and then creators like George R. R. Martin and stuff, they have lawsuits out against them. I promise I will come back and do a whole episode on AI if you want to. I th-
We
I
should.
think I
Oh,
think
look,
there's a middle ground for it, to be honest. I think if
there is.
because I'll say this real quickly. If, and I see this all the time. Most recently, I've seen this a lot come up on LinkedIn, and in the writers and artists communities over there. And a lot of them are just like straight, flat out, like no AI. And I get it. But to a certain degree, pencilers and inkers felt the same way when digital art pads and Adobe came out.
Yes.
That's the same thing. Yeah. It's just a tool.
Oh, what about when digital comic came out, period? Oh no,
you don't even have to, if I'm being honest, we don't even have to, as independent comic creators, we don't even have to, we could bypass the entire convention model and go straight to digital. And then just figure out a funneling marketing system that works best for online and use things like Google AdSense and Facebook ads to draw all that off there. We don't even have to go to print anymore. Like
you are coming back. You're going to come back so we can have it and whatnot. And just because, again, that's what upsets me. A lot of creators, oh, woe is me, how this is so. No, you have every effing tool at your disposal. And guess what? I would say that you could probably use 90% of those tools at no cost to you.
Absolutely. I mean, ChatGPT 3 is free.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of others you're signing up. I mean, Twitter even just came up, X rather, came up with its AI that you can sign up for. You know?
I use Canva for a lot of my graphic design work for
Canva's
for
a beautiful tool.
And they just
before AI got all nuts.
Now their image tool that they just dropped, that it's not competitive image tool. It allows you to create a generative image model. Now, whether or not they have used proper data models that don't break, consumer license or copyright law is beyond my knowing at this moment. I do know that I've toyed with it and it's decent. It needs work because you can tell if it's AI, right? Like if you generate like a dark samurai, and you'll notice that like the pommel of the sword is like over here in this dude's midsection, but his hand's over here, and he's got 6 fingers and stuff. Like you can tell it hasn't been trained that much. But it's just a tool. It'll be a tool, and you can't stop it from coming. I've watched multi-billion-dollar TED Talks on this. I've watched I forgot the name of this one show that keeps popping up over my thing because I watch a lot of Spotify stuff, and the thing that comes up more and more is that large corporations are integrating AI into their marketing funnels, and they're also doing it into their non-labor jobs. So like, virtual assistants and stuff, they'll be able to do more. And then, the whole Elon Musk, let's go crypto for Canada, where like you invest a little bit, he sets up your funnel, and then they get to make $500 to $7,500 a month. Like that stuff's coming over to, America, I'm sure at some point in time. It's just a tool. It's just a tool, and you can win if you want to use it, but if you don't, then you keep doing what you're doing. I think in a large part, people should just not complain as much and focus on what makes them better, and focus in on what they're doing to continue doing what they're doing, because it's not really hurting anybody. Like,
it's not. Keep focused on you, but again, it's all about being in the conversation. So, but they're doing the marketing the wrong way, folks. Market your project.
Right? I understand that. That's been a struggle, man.
And talking about project, let's bring it to the stage. Wild Oni, baby. Let's talk about it. With 24 days to go, 21 backers. A big salute to you, 21 folks out there. $1,000 goal, currently at $846. So close, and yet with so many days. Right here, we have at least 3 paychecks, folks. All right, if you get paid weekly, or at least you get in 2. So don't bullshit me that you cannot support independent comics. All right, all right. We're gonna get into this. Before anything, we're gonna have to check out the videos and learn a little bit more about this, and then start diving in.
Absolutely, let's do it.
My name is Morichika. I was once a samurai, but I failed my shogun. Hiroshi Toyotomi had my family killed for my shame. In my final moments, on the brink of death, all I could hear were their cries and the whispers of my vengeance. 私運のはい感じだください。
Wowzers, man. Fallout Studios, I love the animation intro they be doing for Ink, man. Fallout be killing it, huh?
They honor me.
Yo, dude, talk to me. Talk to me, bro.
It's a great time to have a samurai product out right now, man. Blue Eye Samurai out. Onimusha just came out on Netflix. You got Shogun dropping on Hulu. All these great samurai topics, man.
Really, Shogun. I gotta peep that. I stay so busy.
Oh man, if you love,
I just recently got my hands on the Blue Eye Samurai joint. I said, all right, I'm definitely that's next on my playlist. I'm trying to finish Bodies right now.
Okay, I got you.
I didn't know that was based on a Vertigo comic, so I was like, all right, bet. So.
Oh wow, yeah, that's on my list though. I'm gonna have to check that out. Definitely check out
on
Blue
the
Eye
Vertigo
Samurai.
DC comic. So that's the reason I said, all right, I'm gonna have to watch this because I got to watch everything comics.
But I've been working on this for 2 years. Okay, like I originally had planned to release this as just an ash can. So like the first 6 pages you'll see underneath the interior samples, and I passed that around for a long time. And until I saw the performance that it was doing in the campaign that I had put it on previously, attached to Limitless Comics, and I saw that it at 6 pages it had 15 backers, and one of the backers was Blue Juice Studios or Blue Juice Comics.
Okay.
That was pretty serious to me because they had just taken off the year that dropped, and so I turned this into a full-fledged series. I wrote the full script. We finally got the artwork done. Basically the pitch is the samurai you see on the front there is Morichika. Morichika is actually a rebellious samurai that was part of the Sampo clan. Around, I don't know, mid 15, late 1600s, and he actually had some type of rebel assault against the shogun. Not much is known about his death, and so I chose to take that ominous point in time of this particular character in Japanese history with little to no history. He's been used in other animes across the thing, but I really wanted to give him a good story because it was a great anchor point for a vengeance story, which is mostly what vengeance samurai comics usually cover because of the Bushido code. A lot of Japanese history was synced into family honor, and what you do for your shogun, and the honor to your people, honor, justice, loyalty, and all that stuff. But it's basically his family is killed after he fails his shogun pushing into Korea, which was a real historical event. It happened twice in their history. The last time was with the shogun Hideyoshi Toyotomi, and his family gets murdered, and they leave him to die in the woods. But in this chasm in the mountains, he hears this whisper from a meteoric prison. He goes in there. There's all these dead shogun in armor and stuff, and one of them's talking, and he makes a pact that he really just doesn't understand. And so the way I describe Morichika's bond with this Oni demon is that he accepts to be the host for this demon, which breaks Wild Oni out of his meteoric prison and gives him the ability to transform like Ghost Rider into this huge 9-foot hulking Odachi wielding fire-bending samurai from the Kami realm, which is the realm that they described kind of like our version of purgatory, but it's where all the yokai come from. And he has an ulterior agenda, but Morichika's agenda is really just to get back at Toyotomi for killing his family. It's not an honorable road. You'll see most samurai stories cover the vengeance code thing. I'm going a little different route. I didn't want to stick 100% to the history of Japan. A lot of the research that you do, if it's not found on ancienthistory.com or some other third party, then you really don't know the details of much of Japanese history that you don't get from a documentary. And it's because they keep most of that stuff sealed off from outside their own country. And I don't want to be, disingenuous to the culture. So what I did was I took inspiration from games like Ghost of Tsushima, and I took inspiration from a lot of the fantasy built around the Japanese mythology, and I used that to bend the fiction of this and turn it into like a supernatural fantasy fiction that's really, really deep, really, really dark, and that's basically it for this issue. Anyway, you get to see what old Wild Oni can do. You'll get to see the impact of the emotional impact. So through this whole story, he's having this internal and external conflict. You get to see this juxtaposition through comparison by going back and forth, because Wild Oni lives like within him. There's a space within him that he dwells in, and he doesn't know how to control his power yet. If you compare it to like a superhero origins, it's like kind of like Spider-Man didn't know how to be Spider-Man when Peter got his powers. He kind of had to go through that, this is how you crawl a wall, and this is now I'm not going to stay there forever. There's some pretty cool characters coming that are going to really expedite this forward. But the overarching storyline, which is described underneath the Legend of the Wild Oni series, is Morichika really doesn't want this power, and so the only way to get rid of this is to find the Sword of Heaven, and it's a mythology from I believe it's either shared or it's from actually either China or Japan's mythology. The Dragon King's sword. It was called the Heavenly Sword, and it was the only thing that could really slay like the yokai. Okay. And so he has to journey to this, but it's located in China. So he's got to go back through the province of Tsushima. He's got to deal with like Toyotomi, chasing him through wherever. Toyotomi's got generals, and he's got ninjas that he sends after. But what the story really, really is going to get excited is that because he let Wild Oni out of his meteoric prison, Wild Oni was kind of the key, holding the Kami realm in their own like dimension. So now after issue 1, you'll have these portals opening all over Japan, China, Korea, all these kamis and different mythological characters coming out, and then it turns into kind of like, well, how does the world respond to this? So you have this like whole monster hunter thing come out of this, where people have to rely on supernatural means and methods to fight yokai and demons, and so they turn towards like Taoists and they're religious zealots, like they're Buddhist monks, like the Sohi, in the Japanese culture. Those were their warrior monks, the Sohi monks, which actually comes up in issue 2. And so they gotta get the sword, they gotta fight kamis, they gotta save people. It's gonna be nuts. I'm super excited about it,
baby, just like we like it. And folks, if you saw it, it's a 22-page full color comic book, and it is but one of 8 issues, baby.
Yeah, and the best part is it's done. Like it's done. Like we're doing this whole campaign to get printing costs.
Hey, let's talk about these covers, man, because they're gonna look good. You could get started as easily as with $1 at the tip jar. All right, you don't need coffee, all right, or whatever. All right, but of course you want to start with the digis. They start on at $5, and now we're gonna talk some covers as we're gonna do the rundown as well. And look at this fire cover, yo! Fire, love it, man. Oh snap, bro!
So this cover is really special. I had an artist. I don't know if you've ever spoken to Paul Gomez. He has
yes, Paulie G, Rabbit, yeah, man.
Yeah, I think we did the marketing on PTSD. Then he came out with the Bushy Boo Circus, and I met Jeff Muth through Paul Gomez, and Jeff. I commissioned Jeff to do 2 covers. He's got a cover I think below that, but he did this one, and then he was trying to get colors right on it. Didn't work out. He told me he was going to hire someone to do colors, and then I went to check on him a few weeks later, and he's like, I got somebody else. I'll get with you when it's done. And then he sent me this, and I was like, who did that? And he was like, Dan Kemp. I was like, what does that sound so familiar? And I had to Google it, man. And then I saw the word Spawn come up. I'm like, oh my God, you did not just give me Christmas and like birthday. And I was blown away. And Jeff's been a huge supporter of this entire project going forward.
I was going to say, because he kind of, you see it. If I remember that they did a samurai Dark Ages in the figure line.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he reminds me of one of them a little bit, in just in how grimacing, crazy he looked. Holy shit!
It's actually an Easter egg. So when Morichika finally learns how to work with Wild Oni, which is one of the conflicts he's going to have to overcome, that's going to be final form.
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah, love it. And look at this. I love this type of artwork, man. It's like fucking all these colors is blending, but beautifully.
Man. Jeff does amazing. I can't even find the words to describe the dark depths that he puts into this. If you guys go check out like his book Simon Says, you'll see what I'm talking about. Jeff does horror very well. Very, very well. I'm actually thinking about making that like a sleeve tattoo. I love it so much.
Oh no, this was so worked out. Yeah,
dude, it's amazing.
Yo, bro.
So that's Jeff's second cover, and Zach Spivey did this. I really like it because it gives you that like stained glass look.
Yeah.
And so it made me think of invigoration, which is a word that's synonymous with samurai in itself, because they always think about balance and revitalizing their strength during downtimes by thinking about their actions before doing it. It's very visual. So I named this one Wild Invigoration, because that's what it feels when it gets like you never think
podcasters do before they podcast, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man, we start thinking. Hold on, there's a
bird. I was gonna take that deep breath. Oh. Yeah, look at that, man. I love DJ Hall. Now, DJ Hall and Zach Spivey both did a cover for Austin St. John's Redemption series, and I got DJ Hall to do that one for me, and that's also an Easter egg because I'm about to introduce a lot of the fighting with the black powder weapons that came to Japan even before the black cells showed up, because you had countries like the French and even Italians coming to the country when they were doing trade with Africa well before black ships and Western culture came over here. And in fact, when you watch Blue Eye Samurai, the characters that she's going to kill are Irish and people from London who are trying to whittle their way into the Japanese culture to take advantage of their not just the trade route that goes cuts straight through the Japanese Sea to get to China, Korea, and then to the Atlantic, so that you can get to America, because that'd be easier for them, right? But it also to take advantage of their economic values, so all their fruits and their grain work and stuff. Japanese culture is huge when it comes to grain work, beef. A lot of our beef that high-end restaurants get are from the Wagyu, which is grown over there in Japan on an island. Most of them are grown on islands specifically by themselves to keep them pure. It's wild. So when you ever go to a restaurant, you want steak, you get Wagyu steak. It'd be the best piece of meat that you've ever eaten in your entire life.
Brother, I'm gonna go and do that, and I will contact you. Let you know how my experience goes. I'm a meat eater. Oh wow, this is beautiful, bro.
Yeah, and here's the voodoo special. Kevin called in a favor on this one and got Michael Monty Moore to do this beautiful rendition. She looks like a geisha, but she's not. This is actually the vestige of Morichika's wife, Kogasai, and she'll make an appearance later in the series. Nothing in this series is going to be what it seems. I have huge plot twists that are already in the works, but I'm really proud of this cover right here. In fact, you could get, even though you can get this here, if you just wanted a print, you could also get this here. But Michael Monty Moore has been selling prints of this specific cover through his Maverick Arts website for a minute. So I don't know if he still got them up. He only had 40 at the time. So we'll
And it's a
see.
taste of some of the interiors, folks. I mean, look at this. Look at the panels, the lettering, everything. Who's doing the lettering?
SK is doing the lettering.
Okay. Look at that, bro.
Yeah, I love the gradients he put in the captions and stuff.
Yeah, man.
It really makes the color on the rest of the page pop.
It does. It does. It does. I mean, look at this. And again, the panel uses, nice eye candy, keeps your eye moving across the page.
Yeah. If that's one thing that I do make sure that clients that I edit for do is when I do see a discrepancy in story, it's usually not because they've written it, wrong or they've done anything wrong with their story. It's the pacing. It's the pacing and the flow. And basically comic book editing, I compare that to logic's puzzles. Like it's the same way you'd write a video game. Everything goes through this shape. This shape's named this thing. This goes that way. This goes this way. One of the most important things I learned from Andy Schmidt while learning from comics experience was you have the most control because you have the ability to move the reader's eye in the direction that you want it to. I thought that was very evocative. Learning how to write comics, because you really don't have that ability when you write novels or when you're writing, anything that's non-visual, novellas, which are shorter novels, or if you're writing short stories or even poetry, that's more symmetry in terms of like coming up with great words. But in comics and in graphic novels and in, screenwriting, you get to control the way they perceive your story, which I think is the most valuable thing about storytelling in the visual medium. Something that really attracted me to writing, period, was you get to make others feel the way you perceive a series of events happening. It's a humbling way to teach others, maybe remind others that they've forgotten that this is something that you could do in this situation. I don't know if you've ever been inspired by anything you wrote or read, but if something that you read in a comic really resonated with you, that like kind of changed your life, or like maybe made you think about something a certain way, then
absolutely.
that writer did their job.
Absolutely. I think that was Paul Cornell. He did a Spawn story when I was going through something. This one Spawn was who was the artist? Forgot the homie, but they were trying to do the news kind of a different direction for Spawn, but then they kind of changed plans at the time. But this is a story of when basically the finality of Spawn's of Wanda, know, and and at that time I was going through something with a loved one, and it's like, wow, me and Al, the other Al, were going through the same shit.
I
had a better outcome than he did.
Yeah. Letting go is really hard. That's something I see in writing all the time. I made a post about it the other day, and it talks about a character that I'm currently writing for an anthology novel that is going to be the precipice of kind of launching my own little superhero in each universe.
Oh, the Florio verse is coming, folks.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it a little smarter because I don't have a lot of money, so you have to find creative ways to get things across. And I've the superhero genre in the novel medium has actually increased exponentially over years. CC Icky is a great hero writer, and he's done like over 20 novels, big events, all the things that you could.
From my perspective, press, and when we get opportunities to check out new stuff, you're absolutely right. A lot of superhero stories are being basically formed in novels.
Yeah.
We've been recently offered a couple of new projects from Marvel, DC, and Fantagraphics, that are more prosy, if you will.
I've actually noticed something really cool. I bought at a comic book store. It was a small novel for kids. It was a Black Panther story. And what the great thing about it was inside, when you open it up, it's almost like you're reading a comic book. So it's like an illustrated novel, because every 3 to 6 pages there's a visual. It's like a whole splash page, and then inside the text they're using onomatopoeias to convey action, which I thought was really cool. I never seen that in like actual novels that like are published by Simon and Schuster, or something that you see, by New York, or not the Washington Post, but like the New York New York publishing.
Yeah.
And I was kind of inspired by that. So that's kind of what gave me that idea of like, well, if I wanted to launch a pantheon of characters that at most independent publishers do, because they want to build universes, because they're looking at DC and Marvel and they're like, oh, we could do this too.
Yeah.
I'm going to go the novel route and build my audience that way. And then if I want new material, I'll just reach back into anthologies and I'll just adapt those into scripts, and then I'll just start from there and then grow those out. So
Yep. I had spoken to someone that actually their whole journey started out as a novel, and then it said, "Well, I guess graphic novel will work out better because it was going to be like a War and Peace, you know."
yeah.
It's he was like, "Oh, wait a minute, you got to cut this down. How can we do it?" They turned it into a graphic novel, into like a couple of volumes, and boom, that's what he did.
Yeah, and the best part about it is if you wrote a novel instead of a comic, and you didn't want to write the comic, you just pay somebody else to do it while you're working on something else. And that's one of the things, that's why I like, you said, that thing about, the story was about Wanda and it meant something to you, it changed you.
Yeah.
And I know that storyline has a lot to do with like letting go. And I run into these, like I've written for Grote Comics and a lot of these other publishers. And sometimes when you think about doing a story, and like when you're paid, you don't really get to put your 2 cents in, but you still kind of can. But then you can't talk them out of what they're wanting to do, because you see something, they see something, but this is what they want. So like I've always told myself, when I go into this, I don't want to be that type of person. So that's why when I started the anthology project, it's called Cows of the Coast, because I live on the coast. And the idea behind it is all my characters are going to be out here in Biloxi on the Mississippi coast, saving people, saving the world, fighting bad guys. I'm going to do the same thing that Stan Lee did, but I want it to immediately resonate with other writers and other readers. So I got other people involved. And so one person's doing this story, that person's doing this story, that person's doing this story. And hey, if it takes off, guess what? They have more work, because I'm going to be like, you did really great on that story. How would you like this? And then we can dive into all these different types of hybrid models that are being done that you don't hear a lot about because of copywriting and trademarking and technicalities. But if you learn how to respect the individual that's helping you grow things, you really don't have to worry about all that in the long run, because you have other people helping you build. Like, what Kevin says all the time, all boats rise, when everybody's succeeding. So I hope it does really good, but it covers like letting go, like especially like being a parent, the hardest things for us to do is let go. Like we got to let go of our kids, from nurturing sometimes, so that they can learn how to make mistakes, so they know what to do, because we're not always going to be there.
Yeah. Right. You know what? We're not there to purify the corrupt in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I go hardcore when a Wild Oni comes out. One thing I told myself, because I'm not a fan of murder porn. I don't believe in the ideology that spreading that kind of entertainment is really healthy for people to think about all the time, because it kind of creates more Al Bundys than we really need. And that's just being, that's just being a pro thinker. I caution towards it. But because this is a fiction fantasy, it did take place in a time in history, especially in a country that was technically built on visceral actions of war and famine. I was going to go all out. So when Wild Oni comes out, it's the literal expression of wild. Like nothing stops Wild Oni. Like when Wild Oni comes out, he doesn't care about ideology. He doesn't care about, emotions, emotional reactions. He doesn't care that, you're the mother of an 8-year-old. Like if you're in his way, you get cut in half. It's one of the things that I needed Wild Oni to make a statement for, so that Morichika can convey the message of, I need to absolve myself of this mess, because this is not what I thought I was going to get.
And let's talk about what we're getting. Folks, as I said before, Wandering Journeyman's digital tier starting at $5, right? Then we got the Foot Soldier retail cover at $8. We have Regretful Fiery cover at $15. We have things here that need to be unlocked. And right now, it looks like we have a sticker, right?
Yeah, those are some chibi stickers that Sean Barber made and Jay Moore colored. Really cool. That particular character right there is Joro. The next one down, the next chibi sticker character down is Naga. Those are Toyotomi's like go-to guys. Like those are his bebops and rocksteadies. So when he needs stuff done, and that's Toyotomi himself. So there's 5 chibi stickers to get, and there's an additional 2 chibi stickers that you can only get with certain tiers.
Awesome. I mean, you got all types of variants, and these are for print, not just digi, correct?
Right.
Physical. Right. See that physical? You can smell the ink, kiddo. Woo! Don't you love it? Look at that. So, for example, for $15, you get 6 items plus optionals. You know, Wild Oni, Flintlock and Cami digital PDF, Wild Oni #1 Flint and Cami DJ Hall, Wild Oni #1 print, and 3 more thingies over here. I mean, there's details everywhere. Let's take looks. Want to take a look? Let's dive in. Oh, Kickstarter, don't you see me on? What are you doing? Don't you love when they do? Okay. There we go.
I was about to say, that's never happened.
Yeah, that's funny, right? There we go. We got all these. Damn. Look at all these. Whoa, bro. What? With the optional add-ons? I mean, people here could go nuts, huh? On this.
Actually, for certain backers, some people can learn how to write comics. One of the things I offer in my add-ons for $175 is basically how to start your comic career, from editing to marketing to writing to knowing what to choose to growing a universe. All the things that I've learned in the last almost 5 years working in the industry, whether it be marketing, whether it be social media, PR, podcasting, like I can show you how to build all that.
Well, everybody's gonna have to learn how to build all that, man, because that's how you succeed. And you could pick the brain of someone like this. I highly recommend that you do if you're trying to get into the journey. I mean, and look at all these campaigns. So why offer so many different tiers? How did you figure that out? I mean, and again, always my favorites. You even got those retail packages, 25 copies and more. Look at this. I mean, where did you learn all these tricks, or it was just your editing experience?
Yeah, so aside from editing comics, I've had the luxury of editing on almost 40 plus, 45 plus campaigns that we've done with Inked. You know, even Austin St. John's, The Exiled, that was published by Massive. I get to work on those. The one that came through with frick, man, what was the name of that book? Bigfoot, the Bigfoot book, Moonshine Bigfoot. Yeah, the image campaign, and then all the other ones in between. You get to see how they structure their offerings, and some of them you kind of don't agree with, and some of them I thought were like, you offer this, but you could offer that. Kind of gave me an idea that I wanted people to be able to mix and match. So I have all my variants have their own tiers for people who don't want the original cover, or they just, you know, they just want that one. Some people offer like all their variants in one package and then sell the original. And then they have, you know, bigger packages. I want people to be able to choose, like, you want one copy, but you just want the variant, or do you want like this whole collection where it comes with the hollow foil version, the virgin version, and then like the trade dress version, which is like the Monty Michael Moore Halloween special that I had drop that was only available for that day. They're going to get, you know, the virgin variant, the trade dress, and then, you know, the hollow foil variant. And then with that comes the Kogasai exclusive sticker along with that, and then a bunch of other stuff.
Making it rain, folks. He's making it rain on them pledges. So you got to put them in.
One I do want to do, I want to cover real quick is the drawn in tier.
Where we going? Drawn in. Hey, why would he be headed? Oh, you want to cut my head off, bro?
So if you got a wife, best friend, if you got a boss, this is a great time to get out some of that frustration. So in issue 1, there's a conflict between Toyotomi soldiers and the Ronin salamanders. They're supposed to be isolated. Like no one's supposed to be able to know where they come in at. And then in issue 2, I explained that there were up to 5 characters that kind of gave away the location of this, illegal monastery where these Ronin salamanders were holed up, practicing things they shouldn't be practicing in Japan while they're at war with Korea, who whose greatest supporter is China, and they shouldn't be doing those things, but also harboring the secrets of the salamander, which is the other primordial god that Wild Oni fought, that led to him getting locked into that meteoric prison. And so you get the honor of getting your honor back by committing seppuku while Ichi cuts you guys' heads off, and you get to be drawn into that tier. Those are always fun tiers. I know Kevin got one. I got 4 more left. That would really like wrap up the whole campaign and then allow me to do some other stuff. But I really hope people jump into that, because it's the only drawn in tier I'm going to have for the remainder of the series. I think.
Oh, really?
I was gonna do Ichi. I was gonna offer her character for like the likeness tier, but when it comes down to going into the retail space, there's a lot of copyright that goes involved with that, because now you're not just introducing this real person in a likeness of a comic to just the backers on Kickstarter. You're distributing their identity to the world at that point, and I just don't have the legal I don't have legality to either protect that individual or protect the comic, because if you have that type of option in your book, publishers may or may not pick you up. So, if publishers only saw that in one book, we could just, redo those pages. But if it was like throughout the entire series, that'd be a deal breaker. So the biggest tier that I got though is the Clan Muth tier. This one's really special because that Wicked Oni cover that Dan Kemp colored, Jeff's gonna do an 11x17 pencil and then sign it and send it to me. And that's original art. So I mean, that's huge. Like, I'm jealous because he's only doing one and I don't get one. So
that means you get that one and then you take pictures of you holding it to tease.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get some big paper and I'm gonna trace it before I send it off. So and then for that one, you get everything Wicked Oni, and then plus a whole bunch of other stuff, including the script, which I've also made available.
Nice.
In a certain degree to a few of the different offerings. And one of the things that I've had to do as a writer in comics was study scripts. So I have books of scripts that were published by other publishing companies that have, scripts from other writers like Alan Moore or Kevin Smith. I think the most recent one I bought has a bunch of scripts that were done by people who wrote like Spider-Man and Captain America. But if you want to be the best at writing comics or doing comics period, you have to read what they're doing. You have to study the techniques they're using. You have to understand why they decided to make Captain America be portrayed on this page the way he did. Because one of the biggest things of writing comics is when you create a character and that character has personalities, there's going to be things that those characters can't do to stay in character. And one of the easiest ways that you can break character in a comic is by hiring a writer who doesn't know the character, and they make that character do something visually that's totally against what the character that you created or that has been created could possibly do, especially if you have a reader's base, as now you have, readers out there talking about, well, this character did this really weird thing and we don't understand why, because they've never done this in the past. So in order to understand why characters do certain things the way they do it, you have to understand how they're being written, how it's being understood, how the information is being put on the page. So at least 3 or 4 times a month, I'm online looking up scripts, new scripts, old scripts, if you can, and studying how they used to write comics. I'm even going back as far as like the Bronze Age, because a lot of that caption commentary is coming back for how they tell stories. And that's one of the things that set Sin City apart from a lot of the modern comics when it came back. It was just Frank Miller wrote it, this like third person, and it was beautiful because a lot of that writing hasn't been seen since the Bronze or like the Gold Age of comics. A lot of today we see comics where like we're seeing the action as it happens, And the only time we go back into flashbacks or flash forwards are when we're dropping exposition, because we're puzzling out our information so that readers stay engaged. Lock and Key is a good example of that. They did it well, but when you have Lock and Key doing it, and you have writers over here like Something's Eating the Children doing it, and then you have another series doing it, after a while you overcompensate your readers, and then eventually they catch on to the pattern, and then you have to switch it up. Well, how do you make that process more complicated other than scrambling it again in a different way that confuses people? So going back to basics has always been a trend that I've seen happen time and time again.
As it should be. Bronze Age had wonderful stuff. I'm a big fan of that era,
Yeah,
definitely. And it was good reading. You could pick up a book and not put it down in 5 minutes. It would take you at least a half hour.
Yeah, the fluid dynamics for their storytelling. You pick up a story and you'd read it, and it was just it seemed so effortless.
And so many one and dones. I miss those days, Mike.
Yeah, like Marvel Presents.
You didn't have to buy a whole damn.
God, one of the things I can't stand about modern day comics, and I know it's been the norm for years, is that when they tell a story in like Miles Morales, and then you have to go to Ghost Rider 1 to read what's going on over here, and then Daredevil 1 to read what's going on over here, and then they converge in this huge event. Yeah. I don't think long term that's gonna last any longer than it has. And I know I'm probably not the only person to ever say that. I'm probably not the only person to ever say that, and then them still do it. I just think there'd be a better way to tell those stories without having to always converge them, to use that as a mechanic to increase sales. It's kind of snarky. It's kind of shifty, shady. If you can't tell the story in a 4-issue series and let it be that, then maybe that story is not
within the book itself. How about that? Within the title itself.
Yeah.
What happened? Shit.
Yeah. And that's why we have indie comics, man, because people see that and they're not trying to cross over. Indie creators are trying to cross their characters over in support of themselves, which is great, but like, you don't have to go back and read like this publisher's 1 through 4 and this publisher's 1 through 5, and you don't have to spend all this money to find out what happens next. It's all right there, and then in like one big shot, like, you get to see it. I think the most recent crossover I've seen lately was Joe Galicia doing something with Star-Crossed and a couple of the characters that I've seen with like Carlos Raphael and stuff, which have been really cool. Because one of the characters that I saw in that crossover with Joe Galicia on the cover was a comic character called Gun Ghoul. And that's done by a gentleman named Will Callaghan, who I interviewed in 2017, which is the first person I ever connected with inside the comics books industry. But the character was so cool. It's about a ghoul who shoots weapons and he can phase through walls and stuff. It was awesome to see him be a part of that whole thing. I don't know. We'll get there, man. Indie comics is around for a reason, and it's not just to create healthy competition for bigger publishers, but it's also to, like me, offering new content and new ways to present it to readers out there, which is why we always come to Kickstarter, because its success is because people out there want new material, and they're tired of some of the older tropes that publishers take advantage of, to make their next meal ticket. We're out here providing depth. Wild Oni's definitely got some depth. We got some depth.
Go indie, go indie, go indie,
go indie, go indie, go.
Yeah, exactly. For real, that's where it's not just finding different things, but it's just also the future. It's the pool, the talent pool of the future of the industry.
Yeah,
because everybody does start out indie, right? Not everybody just goes straight into the major leagues. These big companies find you guys in the indie and finally coerce some of the indies to, hey, come on over here. We'll give you a fat paycheck, but and that's fine. Everybody needs to find a success, in any way that they can, and I'm all for it, so long as they don't hurt nobody and tell us wonderful stories. And all I ask is, please fight back. They tell you to change the character, and if you're a fan of that character, you understand, like Homie was saying, just fight back. All right, fuck it. All right, but you know what you're gonna be fighting for? It's kickstarting this project. All right, so with 23 days to go, $1,000 goal, we're almost there, folks. let's make it rain that when he wakes up tomorrow morning, he got the G, and then it's the rest is, unlocking the next couple of tiers. All right, let's make it happen. And where you make it happen, the link is below, but let me tell you right now, it's at inked.pub/Wild Oni. That's WILDONI, live on Kickstarter right now, baby. Now, Mike, 2 things before we go. Are we going to see you at any other conventions during the rest of this year, or are you done?
There is a convention coming to the Mississippi Gulf Coast Coliseum, and it's going to be new. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go because the table prices are from $250 to $500. But it's 50%. I got to talk to another creator with Diebold. His name's John Holland. I'm gonna try to see if he'll go halfsies with me, because this is going to be in time for me to make a print run so that I can show that there. So the Biloxi Gulf Coast Coliseum, I believe it's in the end of November. I don't know what the name of the event is yet. They haven't announced it because it's literally brand new.
Oh,
so other than that,
we'll charge you money. We don't know the name of it yet.
Yeah, well, I believe it's a bunch of organizations coming together for the first time to bring like an organic comic book fan base back to the coast. So we have a lot of anime and cosplay fests come through here that bring that type of fan base to us, but they're more there for like the voice actors and their favorite characters on anime. And you got vendors out there all the time, but they really want to build an organic comic book, and I think a comic book fan base. And I think it's because they see like New Orleans Expo, which will be down here in December, which I'm probably going to, but not as a creator, but more as a fan.
Yeah.
But you have Dallas Expo, so Fan Expo in general has events all over the country. But I think they really want the Gulf Coast Coliseum down here in Biloxi to be more like San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con. We have several big events that literally flood Biloxi coast every year. One of them is Black Spring Break. The other one is Cruising the Coast, and the other one is another car event that literally brings people in from Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio, Texas, and all over. Like I'm talking about, like if you go down the Beachway, it would take you 3 hours to get from one side to the other. That would normally take you 15 minutes, because you get to see every car that's ever been made pretty much at these car events. And then for Black Friday, you got people from all over, like from Atlanta and from Atlanta, parts of Atlanta, and then Georgia, and then Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, just everywhere. They have music festivals, food pops up, food truck convention usually pops up around that time too, which is really cool.
Food truck convention.
Man, yeah, they got food truck conventions out here, man. Yeah, I love tacos, bro. Like street tacos.
That'll be dangerous, right? I went to
sushi is dangerous.
Almost died.
But yeah, if I think they're just trying to build it up. I don't know what it's called, but when it is, I'll let you know. If I go to that one, that's the one.
We'd love to support that. And last thing here, let us know where we can follow you, because I know you got a podcast, man. Comics and Pop Tarts.
Yeah, Comics and
Pop Tarts. Tell us a bit about that when it drops, and then give us your social handles.
All right, man. Yeah, Comics and Pop Tarts is on Spotify, Amazon. I'm not on Pandora yet, but that's okay. I'll be there eventually. But Amazon, Google, whatever. My moniker on that is Inevitable Mike. I do episodes bi-weekly or sometimes every week. It really depends. And you can get me on Instagram at Michael Food for Thought, and Facebook at Florio Comics, and then LinkedIn at I think it was Michael_Florio. I'm not sure. Just type in Michael Williams or Michael Florio. I'll pop up. But if you type in Comics and Pop Tarts, you could definitely find me through there as well.
Fantastic. I'll be sharing all of those links below. Don't you worry, folks. So you can follow, click away. But most importantly, it is this one right here that is the goal, baby. So support this wonderful project. All right. Wild Oni, inked.pub/Wild Oni on Kickstarter right now. Mike, you are the man. I appreciate your time. Obviously we overextended our time. Why? Because it was a good convo, man. You got a lot of knowledge. I cannot wait to have you back on, because We're gonna go in on the AI because I definitely got stuff on that. All right.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me on the show tonight, brother.
Absolutely. And folks, man, as we mentioned, a big shout out to my people over at Ink Studios. You can check out their website at inked.marketing. You can email them at solutions@inked.marketing. They'll send you a solutions guide filled with their services, examples of campaigns, animations, testimonials, and a whole lot more. All right. So if you're an independent creator out there looking to get their projects and get some eyes on them, check out inked.pub. And we'll start hasta la próxima, mi gente. Much love. Wepa!
Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercover.com. And also make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.